Hi guys, Dogger here with a new video, and this video will be a Soloq Rbg video for pre-patch of the War Within. Now, this is a power level Soloq Rbg series video, so it has nothing to do with fun, it has to do with effectiveness in the pre-patch, and I'm going to give a bit of a disclaimer. There are a few specs that I didn't play like at all, and it can happen, but I didn't play against or with. So for now, I didn't play versus a protection warrior, so I don't have an opinion about it. I didn't play versus a brewmaster monk, so I don't have an opinion about it. I did play one or two games versus Vengeance Demon Hunter. I didn't play at all versus a augmentation evoker, and the rest I actually played kind of versus at least once or twice or thrice or even like a lot because they are just popular. But those three I have literally no opinion. No opinion. Haven't faced. Okay, so we're going to start with this. Also, big disclaimer, there is a armor buff. Like some people say it's a bug. For me, it is not really a bug because it was already explained that they were going to buff current pieces of Dragonflight to match raids or to match whatever, and we have more armor. So obviously, a fire mage with 40% physical like armor protection is kind of weird, right? Although that doesn't really hold the fact that I can, as an arms warrior, do a 520k more strike or even like burst heavily. It just happens that everyone has a lot of armor, so there are a few specs that are more reliant to like deal physical damage, so they will be quite low. Don't take it as it's being bad in the War Within. Not, has nothing to do with that. Some specs are just clearly stronger, and some specs are clearly a bit less. So I'm going to judge them a bit harsh, but know that if you have difficulties to play versus like specs that has a lot of armor because of how they buffed it, you can always play around bleeds. Some specs can play around bleeds. For example, arms warrior can play around bleeds. Fury warriors can play around bleeds, although again it's not really optimal because that's not how you are going to play at level 80. But you can still do that. Assassination rogue, although has some physical damage, it's mostly bleeds in nature damage that they are dealing. Sub rogues have some shadow damage, although they are also heavily in physical damage dealing, so they are quite nerfed. Outlaw rogue as well. Has a lot of physical damage. Survival hunter has some fire damage, has some bleed damage, although very little, has some nature damage, also very little. They are mostly physical, so they do suffer. BM Hunter, they do suffer as well, although bleed damage is not reduced. You're kind of dealing damage with your pets, which are physical. And that's it. Feral Druids has bleed, so you can still function, although it's not effective. Windwalkers has a potential to be like disgusting at levels 80, but right now it is still a bit dampened because of the fact that it is physical. And then you have like some specs that have some physical, but has also some other components that are dealing. For example, Retribution Paladin has Holy Strike, which it doesn't get reduced by armor. It does like holy damage. So that's something you're going to keep in mind. So if you see your main quite low, it is normal. So I have taken 4 minutes of my time to explain the stuff. Hopefully I don't get like a lot of questions because of that. But here we go. Again, it's my opinion. I did play a lot. I don't have the science infused, I would say. Like I don't have like all the cards in my hands, but that's how I feel. Having played multiple specs and classes, I played Retribution Paladin, I played Holy Paladin, I played Elemental Shaman, even Enhancement Shaman. I did also play Frost and Unholy DK. I played my Warrior specs as well. I played Mage, I played Warlock. For example, didn't play Monk because I don't really want to play Monk right now. I'm actually leveling one to see if I'm going to have fun. DH I didn't play, but I played tons versus. So you have like some specs here and there that I have more info than others, but I'm going to jump right away with warrior specs. Again, S tier, let's explain. S tier is God tier, it means that it is over the top good. A tier means that it is very good. B tier, it means that it is average to good, depending on how you see it. C tier means that it's underpowered. D tier, it means that it is bad. And E tier means that it is unplayable, kinda. Okay, so let's start. Arms Warrior. Arms Warrior is in a spot where, to be fair, Soloq Rbgs is a bit different than Soul Shuffle. It's not about the kills, it's about like the utility and the capability to actually win games. And I feel like as a warrior in general, I already discussed about it. I don't know if I posted the video or if I will post afterwards the gameplay of an Arms Warrior, but I do feel like you don't have a lot of agency in winning games because you don't have great CC. So for example, versus nodes, like on nodes maps, for example, Deepwind Gorge, your Arati Basins, even Gilneas, you have like 4-second cap nodes, which are very good for a lot of specs that can actually CC. But Arms Warrior doesn't have that. So obviously your strength are team fights, but trust me, it's hard to team fight whenever the teams are not coordinated. So you're very like reliant on your team. If your team is good, you're going to have a great time. If your team is bad, you're going to feel that as well. So for me, because of the damage in the armor, like again being there, I do feel like you have also a lot of mastery, so you do compensate with that. If you're like running the normal builds, you have a lot of mastery, more than what you would have before the pre-patch. I do feel like you can still be relevant, but I'm going to do a solid B tier. I think it's difficult to say that you have like a lot of impact because in general you're dealing less damage than what you're supposed to, but also you don't have a lot of like CC or utility, except obviously you have wall banner, you have like your rallying cries, you have intervenes. Those are very, very cool, but often than not, team fights are not really decided because of that. You don't have CC, so in 1v1s, if you want to take a node and you have like 30 seconds to do so, you don't have a lot of like openings, except for someone that has trinketed before or did trinket like something very bad, for example Stormbolt, while you have fear up. It's an easy like node capture for that. So again, you're effective at like carrying flag as well, because you're like kind of like tanky, because you have ignore pain, you have your self heals, you have diverse sword, so versus meaties you're very good. You have more armor as well. So you do tank very well, but it's not really supposed to be like that. So for me right now it's B tier because I do feel like you don't have a lot of impact. Your damage is like not like top tier as well. Fury Warrior on the other hand, I do feel like it does a bit better. I don't think it's like that fundamentally different from Arms Warrior because you don't have CC as well. You have to kill very quickly if you want to be like relevant in 1v1s. If you don't have the capacity to destroy someone very quickly, you are not going to win the node or win your side of the battle. That's like a problem. You do also have less utility though as an Arms Warrior, but I do feel like you have a bit more damage because of how the meta is for pre-patch right now. I'm going to also put that at B tier because again, if I think about warriors, I'm not thinking like, oh, I'm very happy of having a warrior because I know he's going to win the game for us. It's more like I'm happy that I have a warrior because it has a moral strike effect, which is very effective because we don't have dampening. So again, healers, if they don't have a moral strike effect on them or on their allies, it's very hard to down someone. But they do have like great more strike effects, so that's why I put them at B tier and not like a lower, but right now for me it is really at that level. Now rogue specs, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really care about the damage. I do feel like assassination rogue does insane damage, so I'm going to put that as S tier. Now you have double vanish, which you didn't have before, and it's still incredibly easy to have impact in games. What do I mean with impact? Like you can easily blind someone and get the node, or you can sap, capture, he's going to trinket, you're going to blind directly, you capture again, and if someone like again intervenes or whatever, you still have kidney there. So again, if something happens very wrongly, you can still kidney. It's a 5 second stun like regardless. So you are always going to be able to cap the node, especially if the player is very bad in stance and next to the node. The thing that is very hard for you is whenever they're standing across of the map, but you still have smoke bomb. So if you have capacities to smoke bomb and take the node, that's also great. I also think you're like incredible killer on flag maps, especially if you're not facing versus a tank. Sometimes you have flag maps without tanks, so then you're very lethal, especially whenever the stacks are going up. You are like one of the best. And I feel like stealth is such a great thing in like BGs. I feel like every time I don't have a rogue on my team, it feels very hard to play, because I know like nobody is going to sit the nodes, nobody's going to try to ghost and get the node. But whenever you have a rogue, it's definitely like up there. It's the same for subtlety rogue. I'm not really like, again, I'm not sometimes it's either you have great damage and great killing capacities, or sometimes it is purely your utility and just being there as a rogue. And if you're proficient at it, again, I'm thinking from a POV of you're very good at rogue. I know you're nerfed, you are in a nerf state. It will get better at a level 80, although hero turns and such, that's another problem. But you as a subtlety rogue or assassination rogue or even outlaw rogue, for that matter, you have that much utility, CC, and capacity to control the environment, control the team fights even, or control the 1v1s or 1v2s, that you can solo win games. Whenever I played rogue, because I did also play rogue on the pre-patch, it's not like my damage was like fantastic, although whenever assassination rogue is actually dealing damage, it does deal damage. But it's not that. The thing is, I'm winning games by just avoiding them, like, to fight. Basically, I try to get a node, try to waste as much time as I can, and then go back to another base, try to get the node as well there, and try to like set two bases at one time, because the timers are different, right? So I think rogues in general are like S tier as well. I think they're very good, and it's very hard to like, you cannot really nerf them in Soloq Rbg. It was already a role that was mandatory in team RBGs, like in 10v10s, and right now in Soloq Rbgs, if you have a rogue in your team, it's great. Now the thing is, having too many rogues is also bad. Like, again, if I have like 3 rogues on my team, I'm also feeling quite bad because the team fights are not really well. But I know that, again, depending on the maps, you are going to do better or not. Outlaw rogue though, I think my issue with outlaw is that it does crap damage, and if I have to differentiate between those 3, I would say that from those 3 it is a bit lower than sub and assassination, because of the kill attempts being so long and just deals like crap damage. Even in PvE, it's like bottom tier. So now with the armor, and basically you don't have bleeds, you don't have shadow damage, you have nothing. It does just less damage. But the good thing is, you don't need to fight to win games in Soloq Rbg. Like I said multiple times, if you want to like try to fight every single time, that's cool, except if you're like doing for nothing. But in general, if you can win a game by just avoiding fights and try to play the objectives, you prefer to do so. I think as Outlaw Rogue you can do the same. You have double vanish as well. You have like a shorter blind as well. So I don't know. I feel like it's very strong. No, I understand like some people may say, what the hell, it does no damage. No. The thing is, most of the time, BGs doesn't get win because of a killing blow. It does get win because of someone capping the node or being very intelligent with their movement or CC. And that often can make you win the games. Now Hunter, I think now I can judge the damage, because the damage is what is kind of carrying a marksmanship Hunter. You can still cap nodes because of like an intelligent intimidate into a trap, and you can easily then cap the node. But it's very hard because, again, the situations are not going to give you that many occasions to do so, and you only have like one great CC, which is long, which is freezing trap. But the issue is it's you can miss it, or something can take it or whatever. And since, again, the maps are like, you can play the map, you don't need to stand next to the node. So obviously, if you're getting freezing trapped, outside of the range of Hunter to being able to like cap the node, it's not going to be doing much. So I'm going to talk about damage. I think Marksmanship Hunter is still a ranged DPS, does less damage than usual, but I do feel like it still does some good damage, and you can win 1v1s. You're way more tanky than in Dragonflight. You have more utility as well. You're easily like a better spec from Dragonflight to now, so that's a good thing. Obviously, your damage is a bit lower than usual, but it still is very high though. I feel like people are like judging Marksmanship Hunter because they compare it with Dragonflight, but Dragonflight Marksmanship Hunter in BGs was busted. It was really not fun to play against. Right now it feels like a bit more fair, although it does seem like, again, it's armor kind of carrying it. I do feel like the extra stats kind of plays in your favor as well. So I do feel like Marksmanship Hunter is A tier. In normal times, I would probably put it in S tier because it's very, very damaging. But right now, I'm going to put them at A tier. Survival Hunter, I'm going to put them at C tier. They do less damage. They are less squishy. That's cool. But I do feel like dealing less damage and being able to not really win all the 1v1s is kind of bad for you. But the good thing is you're surviving more. And as a survival hunter, being able to survive more means that you're doing more throughput, which means that it kind of like balances itself out. I think the issue is, again, with the current meta being that physical damage dealers, like purely physical damage dealers, are not really going to be very good. I can't put them higher than anything else from what we have right now, because obviously MM hunters, they deal also less damage, but it's from afar as well. Like they are like ranged, and ranged DPS is always going to be in favor anyways. Even at level 80, once we have like the war within, MM will always be ahead of survival hunter in my eyes. MM hunters, on the other hand, I do feel like they're also C tier. It's not unplayable, but it deals like crap damage, and it got nerfed recently. Although I don't know if it's PVE or like also PvP, but the issue is it has a bit contrast, right? The PVE side, they're like top tier, like they're one of the best, if not the best spec. And in PvP, you're not dealing that much damage because, again, in Soloq Rbg, or just in RPGs in general, you have that many CC, AoE CC. You have a mage that does Nova your pets randomly dies, for example. You can lose damage because of that. And there are like a lot of occasions where you don't kill fast enough to be relevant in those matches. You're dealing like pretty consistent damage, but it's very low, like on normal size of damage. Also, the extra stats never really gives you the edge compared to the other specs that get more stats. Obviously, at level 80 it will be different because the dynamic will be different as well. But I do feel like right now your damage is not that high. I feel like your pets are a liability most of the time. You're very good at defending nodes, but at taking nodes it's not that good because, again, the pets can just go and anti-cap for you, which is a good thing. But like being able to cap a node is either you're having enough damage to actually deal the 1v1, or you have enough CC. I do feel like currently the damage is not there, so you will have to land CC if you're going to cap a node for your team. And the damage itself, you're never going to top meters at all. So for me, it's going to be C tier. Also, utility-wise, pretty standard for a hunter. Vengeance Demon Hunter. So I'm going to judge tanks versus tanks. It's very hard to judge versus DPS, but again, whenever you're having a tank in your team or versus you, normally you have also a tank on your team. That's how it works. So if you're having a Vengeance Demon Hunter and they have like a Garden Druid, normally it will be quite balanced. But if you're like facing a protection warrior and your Vengeance Demon Hunter, generally you have a better time. So I'm going to say that Vengeance Demon Hunter is easily A tier. I could even say S tier to be fair, but I'm going to keep the S tier a bit like fresh for other specs. But this A tier because you have mostly free games. Obviously, the queue times are very long for tanks. Kind of tried for Protection Warrior just for the lulz. It was actually very long for me, so I didn't really want to do so. But some people are like very much diehard tanks, and I'm accepting that, right? Especially in Soloq Rbgs where they kind of have a spot, but it just is not going to be filled most of the time. But it has mobility, it has great CC, if not the best CC as a tank. They survive loads of damage. They actually deal some pretty respectable damage as well. And they do scale very well as well. So for me, it's going to be an A tier. And I'm going to judge Guardian Druid as well. I'm going to put them at the same level. You would say, but why I'm not putting S tier the tanks? Because I do feel like, again, the tanks are so rare and everyone knows, like, if you're the best tanks available, you could say that they are S tier and in general, but I'm going to try to judge them as A tier because for me it is a good spec, or they are good specs. But it's not like a mandatory, like you have to have those two guys in your team, because you only have one guy that is available to you. And in general, tank games doesn't pop that often. Like I played like a few once, and luckily for me, they were like spread out with Protection Paladins, Blood DKs, Vengeance Demon Hunter, and Guardian Druid, for example. But right now, I feel like it's a pretty much normal thing to see them very high at the tier list. Then I think Havoc Demon Hunter is still S tier. I think it's still disgusting damage. They scale very well with the extra stats that they got. Also, the extra armor actually helps them because guess what? The natural counter to a Demon Hunter would have been, like having Demon Hunter, would have been subtlety rogues, but they deal physical damage, so they will deal less damage as well. They still have some insane, like again the CC, the utility, darkness, which is super good in team fights as well. You're very sticky as well, very good flag carriers as well. I think it just is like the supreme melee right now, and if you have a melee like a DH on your team, it gets way easier for you. I would 100% take any DH over warriors if they are competent with it. So if they're good with it, I think no matter what, I'm taking DH. Feral Druid, actually surprised at how it does. It does kind of well. They don't have vanished like a sub rogue or assassination or outlaw rogue, so obviously it's not going to be as free to take some nodes in general. But your damage is not that ridicule because of the fact that bleed still exists and they are straight ignoring armor. Yes, your ferocious bites are not hitting the same as before. I do feel like feral druids are like in a good spot. They're a bit more tanky in my eyes, but it might be a placebo. So for me, I'm going to put them at A tier. I actually like feral druids, and I actually look forward to see more feral druids. It just is probably, if you have the choice between a balanced druid and a feral druid, well, you would take the balanced druid, which is the best caster in the game right now in my eyes, just because of the damage that it does, the survival that it has, the CC that it provides. I think root beaming a full team, which kind of happens often, is like such a great move in general that I do value a balance to it. Also the mobility that it has stealth as well. You're very good like flag carrier killers. You're also good flag carriers yourself. I think in general most maps, like nodes maps, you have a great time because if they don't have a trinket, it's an easy cycle into a node. You have range as well, and you could also say like, look, I'm going to do the 1v1, and it's going to be pretty good for them as well. So for me, S tier. Healers, I'm going to judge them at the end because it's very hard. So I'm going to be honest, healers are very hard to judge because I need to see the whole tier list before I actually decide what to do with them. Frost Decay, it is for me S tier. I play Frost Decay. I think it's so good. I think the utility that you have, the extra CC that you have, the damage that you have. I think 1v1s, you're like one of the scariest specs in the game right now. Obviously, it's more effective in team fights, and you are going to jump in team fights most likely. But I do feel like Frost DK is like, they are like such in another league. Like damage wise, they're supreme. They are on the same level as the DH. I think obviously defensive wise, it's not the same. But as a Frost DK, you don't really expect them to survive too much damage. You don't expect them to stay in team fights very long. But with the current builds that are running around, and myself, I'm playing like 2 or 3 builds in total. I'm actually having a lot of fun. Like it's really, really strong. Now, is it going to stay like this in like pre-patch? I think with the stats being squished a bit, it'll be not that strong as right now, but it's still going to be a better play style. And I do feel like as long as the sustained damage is possible as a Frost Decay, it's already like ahead of like the fun factor of Dragonflight. But now we're not talking about fun. I'm talking about like effectiveness. I think Frost Decays are like great specs. Now you will see the S tier will be quite populated, and that is normal because again, you have multiple specs being very good at RPGs. You have like 8 versus 8. So obviously, if you have like meta specs, you're often going to have and see more S tiers because of that. For me, Unholy Decay is going to be S tier as well. Their damage is like untapped. Like I think if Frost Decay, DH, Unholy Decay, even Balance Druid, they have like a competition. Balance Druid and Unholy Decay will be like the top 2 pretty much. Unholy Decay is probably the best melee in the game right now for Soloq Rbg. At damaging. Now, utility wise, impact, I do feel like DH has a bit more impact, but I do feel like both can stand their ground. And if you have both in your team, you're kind of set. You can kind of not die and lose. Obviously, you can still lose because of like people not taking notes or people not like paying attention of yourself. By the way, that can also happen. But Unholy Decay is in a great spot. I do feel like at level 80 it will be the same as well. So for me, a S tier, which is very much deserved. Blood Decay, which is surprisingly not that bad. It's B tier. It's really just annoying to 1v1. It's just going to be sitting a node and staying there. I do feel also like flag carrying, you're more the target. So obviously if you cannot hit anything, you're not going to survive. So you have to keep on hitting to be able to sustain and to live. Your damage is actually very nasty, although it's very physical as well, so it's not going to be like mind-blowing, but I do feel like at level 80 as well it's going to be a menace. But obviously if you have to choose between tanks, I would always choose a Guardian Druid or a Vengeance Demon Hunter over a Blood Decay because of the capacity to actually hold a flag, being fast, stealth, or very evasive, or has a lot more CC at disposal. So for me, B tier is probably a deserved spot. Devastation Evoker. I'm sorry guys, the S tier will be populated. I'm going to move my camera because I do feel like it will be even more populated. Now people are going to probably throw a tantrum and say, "Oh, comes to S tier, it's too much, and it can't be that much." Look, it's my tier list. I do feel like there are just a lot of great specs in Soloq RPGs. There are a few specs, like you could make a whole team just based on the S tier. That's how I feel. So obviously the S tier will be populated. You don't have a lot of specs being useless in Soloq RPG, but you have some that are. So obviously it will be more top heavy than anything. It will be like a reversed axis, like it will be like this, right? So obviously Devastation Evoker has insane amount of damage, is very slippery, it's really annoying to kill, has defensives which are more effective in Soloq RPG than in Solo Shuffle. That does seem like it as well. And their damage is just unrivaled, and it will be even better at level 80. And I do feel right now that Devastation is such a scary spec to face. I detest facing one at Soloq RPG. I don't like Devastation Evoker, so it kind of deserves the S tier spot. Retribution Paladin is also S tier. Guys, I'm sorry, but it just is true. It does insane damage. Again, I was talking the top 2 contenders would be Unholy DK, Balance Druid. Retribution Paladin is a close top 3. Like, it is always going to be on top of the meters, and they actually deal not that much AoE damage. The damage is purely like either single target or it has like the chance to do AoE, which is great because it's in team fights, but in 1v1s it doesn't really matter. But you can already feel those 350k final verdicts, those 250k judgments, Hammer of Wrath dealing some insane amount of damage. I just feel like right now Retribution Paladin is the god class that it is. But there are a lot of god classes in S tier, but I think Retribution Paladin being like very sturdy, having a lot of immunities as well, being able to give immunities to other people, having Hammer of Justice, which is a great stun, or Repentance, which is a great CC as well. You could also solo cap nodes. You can also go in team fights and don't care about it and just like go, which is insane. I personally think Retribution Paladin is very strong. It will be still strong in Soloq Rbg. And yeah, I think if I had to make a team of in 10v10, I would be picking a Hunter and Druid. I will be picking 3 healers, which I'm going to say the ones that I feel like are S tier. And I would probably make a team of an Unholy DK or a Frost DK, a Retribution Paladin, a Demon Hunter with a Balanced Druid, and most likely another caster and a Rogue. That's how my team would be. That's literally the god team, the god comp, pretty much. So, I don't know. I feel like people are like sleeping on Retribution Paladin, and it's incredible that some people would say that it is not S tier. It is. It is. Now, is it going to stay at level 80 S tier? Maybe not. Again, I'm talking about pre-patch, and right now the damage is really high, and the utility is really high as well. Protection Paladin is close to useless, to be fair. I'm going to put them at D tier, because right now it's very hard. I could put either of those 2 tanks into E. But yeah, Protection Paladin, I didn't have a great time. They couldn't take the flag for their life. It was really a sad experiment. They don't have damage, they don't have healing, they don't have mitigation. They do feel like useless whenever they take flag as well. Now I don't like Protection Paladin in Soloq Rbg, but I think it's because their decision of how they made Protection Paladin the class that it is right now kind of dooms them into a very bad spot in PvP at least. Now Shadow Priest is really strong. I'm going to put them at A tier though, because I have other specs in mind for S tier. But their CC is incredible. Their damage is actually very high because again the stats are there and there's nothing that can actually be reduced for Shadow Priest. They have great armor as well now. They also have great utility, great CC, great survivability. 1v1s, you're the king pretty much. Yeah, I think Shadow Priest is really slept on. Some people may say that it's like costing too much, but I do feel like right now, if you're like looking for a real spec caster that is going to be also strong in 2s, 3s, Soloq Rbg, World PvP, team like 10v10s, and you're capable of healing sometimes, I do feel like Shadow Priest is really a great choice. Windwalker, I'm going to put them at C tier. The damage is really underwhelming right now. Well, at times it is not, but I think it's pretty much because of like popping all CDs, but that's all. They don't have the strength that they had from before, and obviously the armor buff kind of ruins them because they don't have anything else like damage wise. But I feel like again it's temporary, it's pre-patch, and they will be growing stronger from now. Destruction Warlock, I'm going to put them at A tier. I think the throughput is not like crazy. They do cost a lot, and sometimes you're not, but it's not bad. It's definitely good, so that's why it's A tier. But I don't think like if I have to judge between a Balanced Druid or a Destruction Warlock, it will always be a Balanced Druid. The same for Devastation, to be fair. So A tier, which is not bad. And again, I think they don't scale as much as what it could be, and they're also still in a nerf state. I think Shadowburn still does like no damage, which is surprising on how Shadowburn is currently. So far, it's cool. It's a good, like a cool gimmick. Incinerates are doing do good damage, or Chaos Water are doing cool damage, but I don't think it's like the best. It's good, but not the best. Affliction Warlock, I think it's in the same boat. It doesn't kill fast enough, but you're going to top meters. But for me, topping meters as a Affliction Warlock would be like very much pad. It's not like you're going to win because of your damage. Now, you have damage, don't get me wrong, and you can actually be very valuable in 1v1s as well, into 1v2s, but also in team fights. But it will be less. I think Shadow Priest is ahead of Affliction Warlock, and even Destruction Warlock is also ahead of Affliction Warlock. Affliction Warlock is really unkillable though, so that can be something you want. But it's not like going to be that strong, because I do feel like hero towns are going to complement them very quickly and very well. Demonology Warlock are like actually not that good. For me, it's going to be C tier. And again, I feel like it's a sentiment of a spec that just is balanced around hero tons. So obviously, that kind of makes it very hard to be good at pre-patch. And I think also the scaling as well on Demonology Warlock is not that good on pre-patch compared to what it can be at level 80. And again, you're a pet class as well, so a lot of like novas, a lot of like those line of sights, a lot of like the other stuff going around are not going to be effective and very good for you as a whole. So for me, Demonology Warlock, C tier. Mages, interestingly, I find them very good. Fire Mage is good, Arcane Mage is good, even Frost Mage is good. I'm going to put them all at A tier because I don't think it's the best spec, like best casters, but like they're surprisingly good. I think Arcane Mage is probably the best right now. It got nerfed, but it feels very strong and it actually like pops and does insane damage. And 1v1s you're doing very well as well. You just have to play more first, so you have the advantage. But you have many ways to like deal insane amount of damage. Whenever you have your arcane missiles, you're going to explode someone, and you have procs that you can play around. Fire Mage does insane damage. Again, Scorch now does insane damage as well. So if you see someone low, Scorch them, and he's going to get like 180 Ks per Scorch, which is a ability you can cast while moving, and sometimes you have an instant because of that, because of the tons. I personally like Fire Mage. It's really a cool spec. And Frost Mage, I think you still are like the king of like being annoying, like those Novas, CC, the utility, double block, very cool. The damage, like Ray of Frost is still like insane. Icelands can crit up to 250 Ks now, which is also insane. And your Frostbolts, you can play even Frostbolt spec and do very well as well. So I really like that as well. I did play a lot of Mage, so again, it is a strong contender on my main list, that's for sure. Let's talk about Enhancement Shaman. It is just not fun. And also not effective. I think since first and foremost they didn't get changes from the beta, the town trees are not up to date. So obviously you're still playing Dragonflight. That's the issue. You're playing a Dragonflight spec while people are always playing in the War Within, and you don't have the utility that a rogue has by having stealth and being able to move quickly around the map. I personally don't think Enhancement Shaman is that great. So for me, I'm going to put them very low, but that's pretty much to say to you guys that for me it has less value than any other spec right now. If I see Enhancement Shaman in my team, I actually despise my time. And I love Enhancement Shaman. I play myself Enhancement Shaman, and it is just not good. It is just not good right now. So they need the changes from the beta. They need to ship it in the War Within. The issue is also you're dealing still, like either you're Elementalist and you're still dealing some good damage, but not like impressive damage as well, or you're playing the Storm build, which in my opinion is physical damage with some nature damage. So you're actually half the time dealing less damage than what you had in Dragonflight, and you scale so terribly bad as a storm element enhancement shaman as well. So right now I wait for them to put their changes so I can actually test them a bit more extensively. But I'm a bit worried. I'm very excited for level 80 in the War Within. But right now, I feel like on the pre-patch, you don't see a lot of enhancement shaman, and when you do, it has less impact than anyone else. So I'll try to make it work, though. Again, you know what? I'm going to put them a C tier, a bit less harsh, because I do feel like there is not truly an E tier. I do feel like the worst spec in the game is Protection Paladin, but yeah, don't expect anything from enhancement shaman. Elemental shaman, though. For me, on the pre-patch, it is S tier. I have to debate again. I'm someone that does play Elemental Shaman, played multiple builds. So there is the builds where you're going with the instant lava burst and also with the magma totem. You can also play without the magma totem because it's very situational anyways, and do still like insane amount of damage. Your elementals do also a lot of damage. You can also play the builds that I do play, which is with the lightning pretty much and the volcanic surge. So you have like insane amount of lava bursts actually like throwing because of ascendance and basically one tapping people. Or you play around your lightning bolts and actually like critting for a lot of like damage and just also the crit as well because of stormkeepers can also just one tap people. So I really like elemental shaman, but I think at level 80 it will be a bit different because you have less stats, but the playstyles in general is going to be a very appealing for me. I like elemental shaman. So even if it feels nerfed at level 80, even if it seems to be a bit worse, I do feel like they do deserve the S tier for me right now in the patch, the pre-patch of the War Within. It could be A tier to be fair, but I'm going to put them at S tier anyways. But yeah, I mean, most of the time I won't be choosing a elemental shaman over a devastation evoker though. So take that as how you want. It does top meters though, so you have a lot of impacts. But I do feel like again, it's not the same. It's not the same as a battle split, for example. You don't have reliable CC as well, so again, sometimes you will be winning team fights, but that's it, and you're not really winning any games with it. So, all right, healers. Interestingly, all takes. I do feel like right now Resto Shaman is going to be B tier. I don't think they are like that effective. The rework is effectively also not that great for them right now, in my opinion. They seem a bit more sturdy though, but yeah. For me, it's because I judge them because of the other healers. Because let's tell it straight. I think Preservation Evoker, Mistweaver Monks are like the S tiers of the healer specs in Soloq Rbgs. You have Restoration Druids, and I would say Disc Priest with Holy Priest that are A tiers, and then you have like Holy Paladin with Restoration Shamans being B tiers. Why Resto Druid is effective, but effectively also depends about the team to be doing very well. Your healing throughput is very good, but depending on versus who you're facing, it's maybe a bit less. And I do feel like they are one good flag carrier, but you cannot train quality though once you have the flag. So you have to be careful with that as well. Maybe never mind. I'm going to put them at S tier because I'm thinking that because I did play Restoration Druid. There are many times where you can juke people, you can push them off ledges, you can pretty much control them till the end of the game. Your healing is actually very good on yourself. You can also heal other people, but it's not as effective as Preservation Evoker, for example. But I think in general, Restoration Druids are doing very well. Disc Priest and Holy Priest, they have damage, they have healing, they're feeling good, they have utility. In general, like Disc Priest can top healers, like healing meters very easily because of Atonement. Holy Priest, they can top meters because of like some team fights and some maps. and they are very slippery, very annoying to kill as well. So they are like A tier. And I think Holy Paladin, Restoration Shaman, they're not necessarily bad, but they're like they're like not preservation evokers or mistweaver monks, right? I think those two, they are like so supreme, even Resto Druid, that you are going to be feeling a bit pale. I do play a bit of an aggressive build whenever I'm playing Holy Paladin. I'm playing someone that is very on their faces, dealing damage, trying to heal with melee wings. And it actually works. To be fair, it's actually very fun. I don't know if it's really meta though, but I actually like my time playing Holy Paladin. And Restoration Shaman, I played it. I kind of preferred it with Stormkeeper because I had like a bit more agency, but they removed it, so it is what it is. So yeah, this is a tier list. If anything, if you have questions, please be sure to ask them. I think I was a bit clear on the facts where I put the specs. I didn't talk too much about Preservation, Evoker, and Mistweaver, but trust me, if you have played like a few Soloq Rbgs, you would directly know. I think they are like literally the best specs in the game. Like the difference between having a good Preservation Evoker or a good Holy Priest or a good Holy Paladin is like leagues ahead. It could be like their own tier basically, but they're very good. And then Restoration Druid is not that bad compared to them, but obviously they don't have like an easier time to heal compared to them as well. So again, level 80 might be a bit different, but right now I do feel like that's how I would tier my tier list. So yeah, hopefully you did like the video. Hopefully you did understand the placements of the specs. Mostly the physical damage dealers are going to be very low. The rogue specs are going to be very high for obvious reasons. Caster specs are going to be very good. Some damage dealers that are magical based melees are going to be very high on the tier list. And then you have like the usual suspects that are very good in Soloq RPGs or just in RPGs in general, which would be Balance Druid, Devastation Evoker, and I would say the newcomer would be Elemental Shaman because to be fair, normally Elemental Shamans were never really that good in like TMV10s. But since pre-patch, it is actually like decent because of the damage throughput that you have and the playstyles that you have available to you. Again, thank you for watching this video. Really appreciate you. I need to go to the barber, but again, thank you for everything. Thank you for the support. I'm looking forward to make even more videos about the War Within and PvP in general. Again, thank you. Have a great day. Bye.